What's up, y'all? It's T-Turn. Today I wanted to talk about something that sounds very possible in the Indigo Disk DLC, and that is the return of the original Sada and Turo, the human versions, not the AI. So the idea for this has been stuck in my mind ever since the possibility broke out, and it starts with this. The Teal Mask DLC that just came out a few weeks ago set up something really weird in the games, and it's to do with this crystal pool. Aside from its resemblance to Area Zero, the music sounding the same, glamorous feeding off of it, there is some lore attached to the crystal pool that's just told to us and then never expanded upon again. It's almost like the actual purpose and why Game Freak decided to show us the crystal pool. And it goes like this. It comes out at just one part of the game when Carmine is at the crystal pool with you and explaining what she's heard about it. She says, "The crystals here are always shining. Isn't that strange?" We know Tropigus' crystals do that. That's why the Terra Raid dens glow, and that's why those golden Pokemon glow. Then she says, "There's even a weird rumor that you can meet people here who've passed away." This is such a weird thing to put in the game, and on the surface, it's almost told to us to be something meaningless, just like how people in Paldea made up stories about Area Zero. So it's like the game offers us two directions to look at this line. Either one, it's just a made up rumor to indulge in the fantasy of that crystal pool, or two, it's real. But it opens up a lot of questions, right? If this is real, who's the first person to have discovered this is true? We can't dive into all that, of course, but when I think about this phrase, and there's a lot of ideas that come to mind, like for example, if Ogerpon really was always alone, what if I told you the story was different and like this? So let's say when talking about undead people that there's something noticeable about them. Either they're wavy, like they're not actually there, or like the code for some reason has written all over it. Maybe they have some kind of undead feature to them. So imagine the story went like this, that Ogerpon traveled from a faraway region to Kitakami, and she was actually alone. But since she was carrying the crystals with her, she was always traveling with a companion she missed that wasn't actually alive, which is that man, which is why the villagers found both of them ugly. Because one was not alive, it was undead with those features, and one was Ogerpon, which they didn't like because she was different. And so, you know, she goes to the mountain with her not alive friend, and the mask maker joins them and makes masks so both of them can enjoy the festival. And you know, maybe when the Loyal 3 jumped Ogerpon's house and stole the masks, that connection was severed and she couldn't see, you know, her old friend anymore. And so when you go to Kitakami hundreds of years later, maybe you look like that old friend of hers, which is why she takes such a liking to you. So I made this up. There's a few holes in this idea, which is one, we don't know that the crystals themselves can make you see undead people. And also, the man was alone with the masks when he was jumped. Ogerpon was somewhere outside. Forget about it, it was just an example. So anyhow, I decided to dig deeper into the game for any other mention of this undead phenomenon that Carmine spoke of, and I did find one other piece of dialogue. It's mostly the same though, but it says, "Long ago, the crystal pool was infused with crystalline material from an unknown source." That's crazy, right? I mean, we always looked at the crystal pool as always having the crystals in it, which how that happened is a detour for another video. I don't want to get into that, but think about it. It was infused with crystalline material from an unknown source. Keep going. Its water has a faint glow, but it's safe to drink and even serves as the village's water source. Do you understand how freaking freaky that is? So I made a joke in a previous video, I'll link it at the end of this, where I said, imagine if the entire Kitakami region, the festivals, are all the memories of people living on and no one's actually alive. Maybe a few are alive, like Peachy's, you know, the one who runs the shop, and maybe like Carmine's grandpa and her family, but everyone else aren't actually there. You'd have to assume people who are undead you can still speak to, and they function almost like as if they're alive. But I never knew this when I joked around with that. The entire village is supplied by water from the crystal pool, which means if this is some hallucinative water, they're all drinking it. But it just depends. When first going into Kitakami, since I haven't drinking the water, I should be seeing no one. Unless the way it would work is when someone drinks it, it brings their imagination to life for other people to see too. So that means like a few people would be alive in Kitakami, and the rest of the people are their imaginations brought to life. I am still joking when I say that, but it's kind of crazy that the villagers call it safe to drink and have it as their water source. And then the last bit. Tales say that gazing upon the glowing water can allow you to meet those who have passed on. So put these details together, right? Why would the game do this? Like, again, it could be just the fantasy of it, right? You go to a region, they have some mythology for the place they live in. Or Game Freak could be messing with us. Think about it. In the code, it doesn't just say like zombie as one NPC. There's a couple zombies listed in the code. There's zombies, zombie old, and then like zombie man. But anyhow, forget about this Kitakami stuff. We'll talk about that later. The real idea I wanted to share with you in this video is if this whole being able to see unalive people concept was mentioned in the first DLC, just to get us used to the idea, to set something up to happen in the second DLC, and that in the Indigo Disk there's a very specific person that'll be brought back to life again momentarily to talk to. And I'm talking about someone who we never really got closure on. The more I think about it, the more I really want it to happen, and it was one of the first things that came to mind when I first read that phrase, that you could see undead people. And it's Sada and Turo, but not the AIs. The actual human Sada and Turo. What we know about the original Sada and Turo is that like around 10 years ago, they went to Area Zero with the crew, and then she came back to the surface, or Turo, and they invented the Terra Orb. They lived on the surface for a bit with Arvin, but really they were longing to go back into Area Zero, and eventually they do go back, deserting him, but still keep up with him, sending him emails every now and then, until they stop around 3 years ago because something happened in Area Zero and they died. The only hint we have of what happened is from the AI, who tells us that they got in between like the two Miraidons or Crydons fighting and they ended up dying. And so the AIs continue and carry on their work. So yes, building off of this, the idea I'm proposing is that Sada and Turo will be alive in the second DLC. Momentarily, of course. Some kind of event where we use the knowledge of the crystal pool to be able to see them again. And there's a few layers to what this could mean. The first layer is that they could retell the events of what really happened the day they died. Maybe the events are mostly the same but with slight differences that hint there's a bigger issue here. It might be crucial for stuff they're trying to do in Blueberry Academy. After all, everything Briar is trying to uncover, reading Tropikus's name in Heat's notes, Sada and Turo uncovered it all themselves. So if there's anyone who knows all the secrets of the game, it's the two dead professors. The second layer is that the dynamic would be much different than the AIs. Because okay, by the way, one cool nail in the coffin for this idea is that the Chinese data miner, when looking at the Teal mask code and what's left in it, they found this weird story quest like thing where it shows us and Arvin partnering up and doing something, and Sada and Turo being involved, but we don't know the details. It seems to be something deleted from the game that actually belongs to the Indigo Disk. So whatever I'm saying here, imagine it's only us and Arvin that are in the room when we get to meet the undead professor. So yeah, the second layer is the dynamic is much different than when we met the AIs, because Sada and Turo's memories would end from where they died a few years ago, which means a different kind of emotional reunion when they see Arvin. You don't know what they're thinking in their last minutes, but also we get the chance to tell them how their research played out, what really happened for the next 3-4 years, and how the AI try to make their paradise dream happen. And you can maybe learn more about this Tropikus influence we speculate about, you know, that when people go to Area Zero, Tropikus makes them crazy. And maybe to our surprise, the real Sada and Turo, they maybe knew the dangers of this whole time machine business, and maybe that's part of the real reason they died, and that not that the AIs are evil, but they're only a version of Sada and Turo that live on. You know, that whole Paradise Protection Protocol is freaky. It really feels like something else influenced those robots at the end. Or maybe when we speak to Sada and Turo, they are crazy. You know, you get to speak to them and just see how crazy they are. Much different than the AIs. They talk all this nonsense about Tropikus about wanting their paradise achieved. Either way this goes, it works. They can either be the rational ones versus the AI, or be completely irrational compared to the AI. But yeah, the purpose of this meeting would be something like we're at Blueberry Academy and they've hit a brick wall about how to go further about uncovering Tropikus. Maybe something like they know there's something underneath Area Zero, but they haven't figured out the way to get there. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, Arvin would have gone to Kitakami, felt something weird, and then left. Arvin's the only lead who can maybe do something. So he tells you that when he went to Kitakami, he saw his parent and that freaked him out and made him leave. and that, you know, if the rumors are true, maybe he can go there and talk to them and figure out this whole Area Zero business. That would pretty much be the context, where we need Sada and Turo's help to figure this out. But you know, it's something he keeps quiet. He's not telling the whole cast that he's gonna go meet his parent. It would just be you and Arvin that go to Kitakami for this little event. So, you know, you could say one thing, which is that if this happened and Arvin got to meet his original parent, that it might break that whole emotional ending that was the original game, where the AI glitches for a moment and shows that they did care for Arvin. But it can be looked at differently. So the AIs are a hint that the professor did love Arvin deep down, but you know, the real human professor can know things that the AI didn't. After all, the professor clearly blocked out the AI's like loving component, so it wouldn't reach out to Arvin for the sake of its productivity. So that means the original humans are actually superior to the robots. The robots can only do the thinking they were programmed to do, the AIs. So really the ending to the original games could be using the AIs to show the professor loved Arvin, and in the actual DLC, you get to see proof of how the professor loved Arvin. So I'll give you a scenario like this, okay? And then I'm freaking done with this video. So imagine that, you know, while Brian and everyone is stuck, unable to get into the deeper part of Area Zero, that they realize the only way to do it is using the time machine. But the time machine, it doesn't work anymore without the AI there, who's kind of the key to the time machine. This is an opportunity to learn things that the original Sada and Turo never would have programmed into the AI. Like, for example, what if there is a second key that's able to use the time machine? One the professor only left for Arvin to be able to use, even if he didn't know it yet. This is also, you know, going by the theory I said a few videos ago, where it's not actually a time machine. But yeah, you know, with this information, you guys go back to Briar and you can enter the climax of the game, where you go to that deeper part of Area Zero. It's just, you know, a possibility. So what do y'all think? Will the human Sada and Turo be alive in the second DLC for a moment? Y'all let me know in the comments. Make sure I'll shank that like button, and as always, I have a lot more to talk to you guys about, especially this crystal pool. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Take care.